So we're going to do our Major Quiz 4 review. So we are looking at number 1. We are going to find the accumulated value in the account and how much interest was earned in the account. So I'm just going to give us the values. We have a P, an R, an N, and a T value. The principal that we are given is 532. The rate is 12%, which we always have to change to a decimal. We are told that it is quarterly, which is 4. Remember, it's like 4 quarters in a dollar. And our time is 7 years. So to do this, we need our formula of A is equal to P times 1 plus R over N raised to the NT. So 532 times 1 plus 0.12 over 4 raised to the 4 times 7. So putting this in our calculator, we get 432 parenthesis 1 plus 0.12 divided by 4 raised to the 4 times 7. And this will get us a value of 1217.18. Now this is the amount in the account, so this is the A part. Now to find our interest earned, what we need to do is take the 1217 in the account now and subtract out what we started with. Using our calculator, we're going to get 685.18. So this is the amount of interest that we earned in our account over those 7 years. All right, let's look at part B. So for part B, we are given P is equal to 1525. Our R is 9%, which is 0.09. Our N this time is monthly, which is 12 times a year, and the T is given to us at 15 years. So using our formula, it's the same formula we used before. We have A is equal to our P, 1525, times 1 plus our R, which is 0.09, over N, which is 12, raised to the N times our T. So we have 1525 times 1 plus 0.09 divided by 12 raised to the 12 times 15. We end up with our A equal to 53.0. That 1 has a 5 after it, so the 5 will cause the 1 to become a 2. And then we're looking to find our interest earned. And our interest earned will be our new total minus what we started with. And that will leave us a value of 4328.02. So we earned about $4,300 in interest. All right, so that's the first type of problem you will see on the exam. The second type of problem, we're going to add the proper constant. So the resulting trinomial is a perfect trinomial. And then we're going to factor the trinomial. So we're using the completing the square technique on this. So for part A, we have x squared plus 6x plus, we need to figure out the blank. Remember, this is b over 2 squared. Our b is 6 over 2 squared. So 6 over 2 is 3 squared, and 3 squared is 9. So we'll have x squared plus 6x plus 9, and the factor will be something like this. We know we have x squared, so it'll be an x, and this number right here, after you reduce the b over 2, this is what goes in. It's a positive 3, so it's plus 3. All right, let's look at part B. If we have x squared minus 10x plus blank, our b over 2 squared will get us negative 10 over 2 squared. Negative 10 over 2 is negative 5 squared, which is 25. So remember, this is the value we're going to use in our factor. So x squared minus 10x plus 25, and the factor would be our x minus 5 squared. All right. The next one we're going to look at is just solving by completing the square. So for number 3, we're going to solve by completing the square. So using the technique we just went over, we're going to use the same process here. All right, so we have x squared plus 14x plus 5 equal to 0. We have to isolate the x's. So x squared plus 14x equals to negative 5. Recall, we're looking for what we just did on the previous problem for the part we add to make that perfect trinomial. So we have our b over 2 squared. Our b is 14 over 2 squared. 14 over 2 reduces to 7. And 7 squared is 49. So now we have x squared plus 14x plus 49 is equal to negative 5 plus 49. Remember, you have to add it to both sides. So we have we need to factor this side over here. We will have our x, and remember, this is going to make our factor, x plus 7 squared, equal to 49 minus 5 would be 44. Using our square root property, we need to solve for x on this one. So x plus 7, because the square root takes care of the square, plus or minus the square root of 44. So over here, I'm going to look at my square root of 44. Breaking it down, I get 4 times 11. 2 times 2 is 4. Square root of 2 times 2 times 11. Looking for a group of 2 since it's a square root. Those 2's will come out. We end up with 2 square root of 11. So x plus 7 equals plus or minus 2 square roots of 11. Subtract the 7 over. We get x is equal to negative 7 plus or minus 2 square roots of 11. And that would be your answer for the solving of completing the square. All right, so for our next problem, we are going to simplify. We are going to simplify some radical expressions. So the first one we're looking at is 14x plus 28 over 5x plus 10. And first thing we have to do is factor. So on the top, I can factor out a 14, and I am left with x plus 2. And on the bottom, I can factor out a 5, and again, I'm left with x plus 2. The x plus 2's will cancel, and we'll have 14 over 5 as our final answer. Our second term is x squared plus 5x plus 6 over x squared plus 7x plus 10. So we need to factor both parts of our fraction. So the top part will have x plus 3 times x plus 2, and on the bottom we have x plus 2 times x plus 5. Now I'm factoring these using AC method. You need to know how to do that. If you need to, go back and re-watch the videos we've done before on the factoring. The x plus 2's will cancel, and we're left with x plus 3 over x plus 5 as your final answer. All right, let's look at problem C. We have 15x minus 10 over 10x times x squared over 9x minus 4. So we need to see what we can reduce here. And actually, this should not be a 4. This should be a 6. I just wrote that wrong. Sorry about that. 9x minus 6. Yes. All right, so on the top part, we can factor out a 5, and we get 3x minus 2 over 10x times our x squared, and 9x minus 6, we can factor out a 3 and get 3x minus 2. So looking at what can reduce, our 3x minus 2's will reduce, and 5 will reduce into 10 and make that a 2. So on the top we have an x squared, and on the bottom we have a 2 times a 3 times an x. And we could have already factored out the x, but we can see here that this x to the 1 will take that 2 down to a 1 on the exponent of the squared x. We'll end up with x over 6. So if you don't always see that if you reduced it all, once you put it over all together, you might see some additional parts that you can reduce on. And always reduce it to its final form. All right, we have another problem of x squared plus 4x minus 21 over x squared plus 11x plus 28 divided by x squared minus 11x minus 24 over x squared plus 9x plus 20. So the thing that we have to remember here is that when we are dividing by fractions, we change those to multiplying by reciprocals. So the first fraction will stay the same, but the second fraction we will flip it over because we will multiply by the reciprocal. So x squared plus 9x plus 20 will now be over the x squared minus 11x minus 24. So now we need to factor all of the terms using our AC method. So we'll have x plus 7 times x minus 3 over x plus 4 times x plus 7 times x plus 4 times x plus 5 over x minus 3 times x minus 8. All right, so our x plus 7's will cancel, our x plus 4's will cancel, our x minus 3's will cancel, and we're left with x plus 5 over x minus 8 as your final answer. And that is the end of our review. Make sure you study for your exam.